often we will get into an ego battle around our relationships. So we might be like, well, they didn't text me, so I'm not texting them. Or she didn't like my post, so I'm not going to like her post. Or she hasn't asked me to hang out, so I'm not going to ask her to hang out. Or he didn't do this, so I'm not going to do that. And do you see what's happening here? It's a tit for tat. And our egos and our inner child get involved in that situation. And then we create so much resentment and miscommunication and messy energy in our relationships and in our lives. Hello and welcome to Yarrow K Academy. Welcome to Yarrow K Academy of Healing, Expanding, Spiritually Transforming, and Mastering Energetics. I am your host, Yarrow K, leadership mentor, nervous system genius, clinically trained therapist, spiritual teacher, and all-around energetic sorceress, which means I'm an master of energetics. I almost said aster. I'm an aster, no, master of energetics. And we will create so much energetic miscommunication just by not saying something, complaining to other people about something, or making assumptions within our relationships. And what's happening within that is that our inner child is terrified of rejection, criticism, or judgment, and our ego is trying to protect us. And so we will go into this protective state, which then creates a bunch of miscommunication, messy energy, lack of reciprocity, and often, as I will share in a moment, it keeps us in misaligned relationships. So let me share a story. I had a really good friend for about 15 years. She was like my best friend. We talked on the phone for hours at a time. Of course, we had ups and downs in that through our relationship, but we were super, super close. And I got to this point where I was like, we weren't hanging out. It felt like there was a lack of intimacy, and I wasn't feeling good in the relationship. So I asked her to go to lunch with me so that we could discuss this. And when we were at lunch, we discussed everything I just shared, and she agreed. And so we made a commitment to have more vulnerability in our relationship, to be more connected in our relationship, to make more of an effort to spend time together in our relationship. And as we started to do that, we realized we were misaligned. Like, we had grown in different directions. And here's the interesting part about it. Through most of our relationship, we were in such different places in our lives. Like, I was doing yoga and I was on a healing journey, and she was an actress and she was, partying and drinking and doing all these things. And then she got sober and she started to go on a healing journey. But our healing journeys looked so different that they were actually not in alignment. And we ended our friendship. Actually, I ended our friendship, and for a multitude of reasons. And it highlighted that we were not actually in alignment to be friends anymore. And it took a lot of courage for me to end the relationship, because we could have continued, but I didn't feel seen and I didn't feel heard and I didn't feel validated, and there was a lot of hurt and resentment. And when I ended the relationship, it was because I could see where she wanted to not take responsibility for certain things. And it was triggering for me in our relationship because of all the different times she had not taken responsibility, and I hadn't really felt like just seen by her. And it was painful because we'd been friends for so long. 15 years is a long time. Through that, I ended it. We went our separate ways, and I was able to look back and think, that's what happens when we actually decide to have the hard conversation. You either deepen the relationship or the relationship goes away because it was misaligned. And so often we will hold on to relationships because we're so scared of losing them that we don't say the hard thing. We perpetually for years will talk about someone behind their back to our friends, to our family, because we're feeling hurt, we're feeling misunderstood. We don't want to have the hard conversation, because if we have the hard conversation, we might actually lose the connection. And then we're terrified of what will happen if we lose the connection. So we just keep holding on and we never say the thing we need to say. And then we run around being like, well, they didn't text me, so I'm not going to text them. And maybe I should text them, or maybe I should, and then we feel like guilt and we feel resentment and we do things we don't want to do. Or we hold back things that we want to share because we're scared of loss. And this makes sense because our nervous systems are literally wired for survival, and survival once upon a time meant if you don't have a tribe, if you don't have your people, you're going to die. It's also a human need to have connection. And so we will sacrifice our authenticity for attachment so that we have quote unquote connection. But when we have attachment over connection, we still experience, and actually, we experience so much loneliness because we don't actually feel seen. We don't actually feel connected. And one of the largest epidemics amongst humans is not the fact that we're not around enough people, it's that we're around people, we don't have quality connection and relationships. And when I say quality connection relationships, I don't just mean someone there talking to you. I mean someone who fucking sees your soul, like sees into you and sees your soul and feels your essence and you feel their essence. That is true connection. And it's so infrequent that we actually experience this because people are holding back their truth because they're afraid of loss. So I want you to really sit with, when was the last time you were like, oh, I'm fine. It's fine that they did that. Oh, it's okay that that happened. Or I'm not going to text them because they didn't text me. Or, he did this, so I'm not going to do that. Or like, when's the last time you started to get into that weird little nitpicky ego game? Even if you know you shouldn't, no, you shouldn't, quote unquote, and then you justify to yourself and be like, oh no, I just don't feel like it. Or I'm just not bothered by it. Most of the time, those are lies that we tell ourselves because our ego is like, well, I shouldn't be bothered by this. And so I'm going to pretend that I'm not bothered by this, right? Like our ego loves to play this game. Our ego loves to be like, well, I shouldn't care. So I'm just going to pretend that I don't care and I've got it all figured out and everything's perfect. And, you know, I don't need to care. It doesn't matter. I'm fine. I'm better than that. I deserve more than that. Well, sure, all of that may be true, but the reality is if you fucking care, you have to face it. And so sometimes facing it means going in, being the leading energetic frequency, being the one who says, hey, I would like more connection. Can we have more connection in our relationship? And if that person's able to meet you, awesome. Or, hey, I would like to know where our relationship stands because we've been dating for a little while and this is what I desire. What do you desire? Instead, it's like, oh, well, I don't want to say anything because what if I scare him away? And then we end up in these like perpetual limbos, right? And we never actually get to experience true alignment in our relationships with ourselves and our lives because we're living through attachment rather than authenticity. And so, attachment rather than authenticity, this is Dr. Gabor Mate's theory. And he says we sacrifice our authenticity for attachment because when we were children, because if we didn't, we would die, right? Like if something wasn't acceptable to our parents, we were like, oh, I better hide that part of me because if I let that part out, they don't like it and then I'm going to die, which we quite literally would. We needed food, we needed shelter, we need to be cared for. We couldn't just roam the streets alone at 3 years old. I mean, you could, but the chances of surviving were slim to none. So we sacrificed our authenticity for attachment. And then we grow up into adult humans and we have sacrificed our authenticity for attachment. And then what happens? We are living inauthentic lives because we've spent our entire existence sacrificing authenticity for attachment. So we actually don't even know who the fuck we are. And so when you get to this place and you start to evolve, you start to grow, you start to expand, you have to actually first learn who you are, learn what feels good and authentic to you, and then learn to communicate it. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of things, right? And we just think it should happen innately. We think we should naturally be able to do this. Why would we naturally be able to do this? Literally, no one has taught us how. Like, we have not been taught how to be with our feelings, how to communicate our feelings, how to express our feelings, how to understand our feelings, how to know what feels authentic in our body. We've been disconnected from our bodies, right? We've been disembodied. We've been taught that our bodies are wrong, that they're shameful, that we're not supposed to be in touch with them. And I feel really fortunate because I have less of this than most people because I grew up off the grid. And so I ran free and wild in the woods and I was really pretty connected to myself, to the earth, to others. I have very little shame around my body and around bodily things. That's not the case for most of society. And if you were raised religious, which I was not either, then you have a lot of shame around your body. We were taught to seek saving in Big Daddy in the sky. I did my previous video about that. So go check that out if you're interested in that. But because of that, we've disconnected from our bodies. And then we have a ton of body issues. We have a ton of shame. We have a ton of like body dysmorphia, thinking we need to be as small as possible, especially for women, right? Like if I'm not small, I'm not going to be chosen, then I'm going to die. And so there's so much, right? There's authenticity versus attachment as children. There's purity culture. There's societal conditioning. There are all these ways where we have disconnected from ourselves and from our bodies. And so we don't know how to tune into our intuition. We don't know how to actually anchor into it, understand it, and then actually communicate from our hearts, not from our ego, not from shoulds, but like truly from our hearts. And when we actually communicate from our hearts, we will be amazed the kinds of connections that we can create. We'll also be amazed the people who fall out of our lives because they weren't actually in alignment in the first place. And then sometimes you might go through this alone period, which people really resist this alone period. They don't want to be in the alone period. They push against the alone period. And so you hold on to misaligned relationships because it's better than being in the alone period. Excuse me. But ultimately, it's not. Ultimately, it's not better than being in the alone period, because ultimately that alone period is going to lead you to aligned relationships. And when you have aligned relationships, you feel deeply seen and held, and like you can be you. Do you know how many times I held back my too muchness in life because I was afraid if I show it to people, they're not going to get it? And then there were people in my life who really saw me and really honored me and really valued me and really like just adored all of my too muchness. And then you have to look at, can I receive that? Does it actually feel safe for me to be seen in that way? Does it feel safe for me to be connected in that way? Does it feel safe for me to allow someone to see me in that way? And I just take a breath and land in that, because it can feel super scary when someone sees us and honors us and values us, and we'll spend our whole lives chasing people to see us. But then when we're actually seen, we'll be like, oh my God, I gotta hide. They can't see me. What if they see all of me? What if they don't like it? What if I'm criticized or judged or rejected? My heart's all barren out here. And when I talk about your heart being open, I never mean like in a bleeding heart, just giving everything away. Like, I'm very big on discernment, energetic boundaries, understanding what you want to share, what feels in alignment to share versus what doesn't, keeping things a little mysterious and a little internally to yourself in moments in time. Like, being a human and learning how to master your energetics, attune to your inner child, show up in your most embodied power as your most magnetic self, which is something that I teach in Magnetism, Sex, Power, my pre-recorded series with live calls. The last live call is tonight. So if you're watching this, you're probably not going to, like, you're going to miss it basically, but you can buy it all recorded. And then I have something really exciting coming soon. My group mentorship program, The Portal, is a place where you are seen, heard, held, and held to your divinity. We have themes every single month, and the theme for December is Relationships Reimagined. And so you're going to learn about the energetics behind authenticity, how to communicate, how to show up in relationships, how to honor yourself in relationships, how to identify, is this attachment or is it connection, how to feel into your body around that, how to weave beauty into your relationships. Like, beauty is medicine. It's not a luxury, it's medicine. It actually calms our nervous system. Beauty calms our nervous system. And I recently, my business mentor wrote a quote about, or wrote a post, excuse me, about beauty as ritual in your business. And she said, beauty is not a luxury, beauty is medicine. And it landed in my body so fully. And I just started thinking about all the ways that beauty calms your nervous system. Beauty brings you home to yourself. Beauty is, it's a natural, appealing essence, right? It's an energetic vibration that actually creates ease and creates nourishment. And we have discarded it as though it doesn't matter. But when we're looking at our relationships, so often we're critical, we're nagging, we're criticizing, we're judging. We're not intentionally weaving beauty into them. And sometimes beauty comes in the form of having a hard conversation. Sometimes beauty will ask you to be devotional. It will ask you to be disciplined. It will ask you to create sacred space for there to be a processing between two humans so that you can alchemize what's existing, so that you can either go in your separate directions or come closer together. And that is beauty. right there. And we don't honor it that way. We don't thread it through our relationships. We are not taught how to do this. And so this is why I have created Yarrow K Academy. It's why I've created the portal. It's why I have Magnetism Sex Power. It's why the composer exists, which we're running that again in April. That is a more intimate crucible of chrysalis for you to really just go deep. And then I have something coming, a mystery school coming soon. I'm going to announce it next week. I'm very, very excited. So when we're looking at our relationships and we're looking at the stories we're telling ourselves that our ego is trying to protect our inner child, we have to have enough nervous system safety, which comes through relational healing, which is why being held by a guide is so essential. I spent like 20 years of my life just free for all, not knowing what the fuck was going on. And every guide I tried to have just didn't know how to actually guide me. And so having an effective guide will literally collapse time around you creating a life that feels how you want it to feel and feeling safe to trust and fall in love with your journey. And so, as a guide, I am here to hold you, to see you, to hold you to your divinity, and to help you master your energetics so you can create the kinds of relationships that you want, the life you want, the abundance you want, the love you want, the beauty, like to feel safe to thread beauty through your life, like a golden thread through your life. And this is what I do in my world. And when you land in it, it feels like the deepest exhale of relief of like, oh, I'm home because I guide you home to you. And then you have a space to be with others who are also doing this work. And we are meant to come into sacred connection with each other. And it's a space where we're raw and we're honest and we're real and we have so much fun, and we also transform in the most powerful of ways that you've ever seen. So if this is calling to you, I have the portal 6 or 12-month group mentorship. We have monthly themes. We have 3 live calls a month. You have Telegram broadcast Monday through Friday from me. You have a Drop the Questions Telegram channel. You have a community of other humans who are in it with you, like really shifting their way of being, because as humans we are conditioned to be contracted, to be scared, to be shut down, to be overthinking and judging and ruminating and protective. And when you have a space with other humans who are actively deconditioning that and rewiring into a new way of being, one of love and freedom and beauty and truth and expansion and feeling safe to receive and be all of you, be your magnetic vibration. I have an entire program called Magnetic Muse, which you receive when you do the portal. You also receive it when you do Magnetism Sex Power. When you feel safe to be all of you, your whole life feels different. And yeah, there will be hard moments where you're going to have to actually release old ways of being. I have so many videos that talk about this so that you can embody your new identity and your new way of being. And when you know how to do this through communication in your relationships, like real, true, honest, heart-led communication, not bullshit, not conscious communication where you're bypassing your emotions, but like raw truth. It is the deepest connection you've ever known because you're connected to you, you're connected to them, you're connected to the divine, you're connected to the earth, and you're creating more honest, clean energy in the world. And that is how we transform the entire planet. So if this calls to you, let me know. Comment, send me a DM at YarOK on Instagram. Let me know, and let me know how this video lands. I would love to hear. Okay, I hope you have a beautiful moment in life wherever you're at, and I'll talk to you soon.